Three furry aliens seem to get lost in outer space. They have been traveling aimlessly for a long time and yearn to experience the feeling of having a female companion. They have no idea that their lives are about to change on Earth, with a girl from the valley who innocently sleeps on her bed. Valerie Gale, a manicurist at the Curl Up and Dye hair salon, awakens when her fiancé, Dr. Ted Gallagher, walks inside her room and sees her wedding gown on the bed. She keeps her gown immediately while complaining about how it could be bad luck, but Ted comforts her not to worry about such a superstition. While Valerie can't wait to make love to her fiancé that night, Ted refuses and makes up an excuse on why they can't do it. Valerie goes to work the next day while Ted is in the gym, expressing to his friends how he is suddenly dissatisfied with Valerie. Back at the salon, Valerie also tells her friend, Candy, about the lack of intimacy in her relationship with Ted. Candy suggests that maybe Ted is going through premarital stress, so they should get him a new woman, meaning a new look for Valerie. Even if Valerie finds the idea ridiculous, she lets her friend drag her for an ultimate makeover. At home, Valerie prepares for her surprise by dressing in lingerie and giving the house a romantic vibe. Then, when Ted arrives, she hides in a closet, completely unaware that he is with Robin, the nurse Ted has been eyeing. Valerie then comes out, but she ends up bumping into Robin in the living room. Ted also emerges from the bedroom wearing an odd Dr. Love costume. Robin then awkwardly excuses herself from the two who are on the verge of having a confrontation. Valerie unceremoniously throws food at Ted as she confronts him about his infidelity. Without listening to any of Ted's explanations, she kicks him out of her home. As soon as Ted departs, Valerie starts getting reckless, destroying the things that make her remember Ted. The next morning, Valerie's mood instantly turns sour as she watches a television show with a relatable plot about a doctor cheating on his comatose wife with a nurse. She then answers a telephone call from Candy and starts sharing about her bad night. Back in the spaceship, the yellow alien is intently looking at the monitor when it suddenly receives a broadcast signal. He calls the red alien to show him the woman on the screen, and they start calling them hairless and bald, but round and bouncy creatures. Just when they are enjoying the show, they lose the signal, and the red alien starts to blame the yellow alien. Using the ship's telescope, the latter tries to identify the broadcast's location until he spots Earth. Then, the red alien zooms in on the planet and finally finds a lady swimming in a pool. The two aliens take turns watching the woman, but as they start pushing each other, the yellow alien unfortunately lands on the ship's controls, causing them to malfunction. As the ship spins uncontrollably, the blue alien, their captain, awakens from his sleep. Finding the ship in chaos, he tries to maneuver the ship, unknowingly to the direction where the two other aliens found the woman. Then, their ship crashes into her pool. Meanwhile, Valerie is sunbathing when she hears a loud crash beside her. She rises in surprise and finds a spaceship crashed in her pool. Not sure what the thing is, she calls it a giant blow dryer. The aliens inside the ship are busy blaming each other when they see Valerie swimming toward the vessel, only to bump her head on it, leaving her unconscious. Worried that Valerie will drown, the blue alien enlarges himself to human size, grabs the unconscious Valerie, and takes her back to their ship. After shrinking, he carries her to a couch and tries to revive her with a kiss on the forehead. When Valerie finally regains consciousness, she gives the alien a hug, thinking that he is Ted. But when she feels the fur on his body, she opens her eyes and yells in utter shock to see three aliens who mimic everything she does and even repeat some of her words. With a language barrier, they find it hard to understand each other, but soon, the aliens start introducing themselves. The yellow alien introduces himself as Zebo. The red alien is Whiplock, and the blue one is Makil Salakvader, but Valerie goes with Mac to shorten the name. Then, she also introduces herself to them. Still weirded out by the situation, Valerie tries to escape from them by pulling a random lever, which only causes the water to flood the ship, creating greater damage. Feeling bad, Valerie apologizes and invites the aliens to her house. She also promises to drain the pool so they can get their spaceship back to flying condition. Unknown to Valerie, her gossip-monger neighbor, Mrs. Merkin, has seen her lead the three aliens into her house. As soon as they get inside, the three aliens start touching everything they see, as Valerie makes a call to ask for someone who can drain her pool. At the same time, the aliens tame Valerie's cat with a love touch before eating Ted's fish. They roam curiously, doing whatever they want to do until they end up watching television. Back at the pool area, Woody, the guy Valerie requested to drain her pool, finally arrives and starts to set up his machine. Valerie is also quick to cover the ship and tells Woody that it is her new pool patio. But upon knowing it would take a day to drain the pool, Valerie starts to get stressed again. Meanwhile, the aliens inside Valerie's house watch every TV show intently and sometimes imitate what they hear. Suddenly, the telephone beeps. and Mac goes near it to listen to the message that Ted leaves for Valerie. When Valerie goes back inside, she notices that the aliens are starting to learn a bit of the English language, and Mac even recites Ted's message for her. After learning from Mac that Ted is coming to see her, she instantly thinks of how to hide the 3 aliens. Eventually, Valerie decides to take the 3 aliens to the salon where she works. She introduces them to Candy, leaving her friend hiding in fear. To make the aliens blend into the environment, Valerie thinks of giving them a new look, but she also needs Candy's help to do it. Candy is hesitant initially, but after learning that the aliens are harmless, she starts working her magic on them. After the makeover is complete, Candy presents them one by one, leaving Valerie amazed at how dashing and attractive they look. As a souvenir, Candy also takes a photo of them, then proceeds to invite them for a night out. Moments later, they find themselves seated in Valerie's car, headed to a party in Los Angeles. With the guys' great physiques and good looks, women are soon captivated by them. Whiplock even transfers to another vehicle with a bunch of girls. They try catching up to Whiplock until they are led to the Decadence nightclub. Candy tells the others that she will look for Whiplock, so Mac and Zebo also follow her inside. As the last one to go inside, Valerie spots Candy and the aliens already having fun with other people. She really isn't in the mood to have fun given their current situation, but her complaints are drowned when she sees Whiplock and Zebo going to the dance floor with some girls. When Mac asks her if he could also dance, Valerie finally loses her chill. Upon realizing that she looks like a killjoy to everybody, she announces that she will just wait for them outside. Soon after she leaves, Mac joins his friends on the dance floor, and the 3 start to party. Seconds later, Mac seems not to find dancing fun, so he leaves his partner and goes outside to where Valerie is. But instead of going straight to her, he approaches the man playing the grand piano and replaces him. He starts playing it like a pro, and eventually, Valerie turns and walks toward him, amazed by the fact that he knows how to play the instrument. Mac then asks if they are giving her a hard time, but Valerie instantly dismisses the idea. She then laments about how she feels that things would get better only if she finds Mr. Right, but she ends up thinking there's no such thing. Back inside the club, an unknown man in a white coat suddenly steals Zebo's dance partner. Acknowledging that the man dances better than him, Zebo tries learning his moves and then goes back to the girl to show off his new steps. The 2 men soon attract an audience and decide to have a dance showdown to determine who can keep dancing with the girl. As they start dancing, Zebo begins to copy the man's steps and tweak them a bit, making his moves cooler, leading him to win the dance-off. Meanwhile, Whiplock unintentionally shows his long tongue to the 2 ladies he is with as he reaches for small fruits from a glass. The 2 women stare meaningfully at each other and soon compete on who will take him for the night, but Candy immediately bursts their bubbles as she drags Whiplock with her. Outside the club, Valerie and Mac seem to enjoy each other's company. Valerie then confesses that she finds Mac handsome, giving the latter the courage to make a move. Unfortunately, just when they are about to kiss, they stop midway upon hearing Whiplock's voice and decide to rush back inside the club. What they witness next is a bit of chaos. Whiplock and Candy are kissing each other while Zebo is surrounded by girls asking for an autograph. Calling it a night, Valerie and Mac finally take them out of the club. Concurrently, Ted finally arrives at Valerie's place, only to find a complete mess. He tries calling and looking for Valerie, but she is nowhere to be found. He also notices that some of his pet fish are missing. Just right after he reports a case of a possible kidnapping to the police, Valerie walks into the house with the trio. The couple hugs until Ted notices the 3 guys standing by the doorway. When Ted asks Valerie about them, she instantly lies that she's won an MTV weekend with a band. Hence, they will stay at her house for a week. Ted wants to talk to Valerie alone, so he asks the trio to leave. However, Valerie says the guys can't go. They start arguing whether the 3 should stay or not, but a drunk Whiplock also annoyingly interrupts them and even shows Ted that he is about to eat his pet fish. Enraged, Ted pins Whiplock on the floor and strangles him while Valerie and Mac try to stop the doctor. The police arrive to see them in such a situation, and after deciding that the case is only a domestic dispute, they take Ted with them. Before they can get out of the house, Ted keeps saying harsh words to Valerie, even telling her that their wedding is off. Drained from everything, Valerie starts retreating into her room. Mac worriedly follows her inside to comfort her, but one thing leads to another and they eventually make love. Later that night, Valerie has a nightmare where the aliens start to inhabit the Earth. She sees that everyone around her has turned into aliens, except for her and Ted. Then she aims a blow dryer at Mac and Ted as they fight, and everything dissolves while she is screaming. The next day, Valerie wakes up in bed with Mac. The 2 of them are cuddling when Whiplock and Zebo interrupt to tell Mac that the water is finally drained from the pool. The three start fixing their spaceship, unaware that Mrs. Merkin is painting the vessel from her yard. When Valerie goes to the pool area to give them coffee, Mac tells her they can finally go. A bit stunned by the news, Valerie starts walking away, but Mac follows her. They are supposed to talk, but they're interrupted by a phone call. Woody also unexpectedly shows up at Valerie's pool area. When he starts to recognize the spaceship, the three aliens laugh like it is the most ridiculous idea. Meanwhile, Valerie returns to her room while talking with Ted on the telephone, and they seem to fix their problems. Woody, Whiplock, and Zebo are having a good time at the pool area when Woody suddenly mentions girls. Seeing the growing interest from the two, Woody invites them to go to the beach to see more girls in bikinis. At the same time, Max slips inside Valerie's room, only to find her talking sweetly to someone on the phone. Not wanting to interrupt, he leaves quietly and tries catching up to Whiplock and Zebo, who are already in Woody's car. On their way to the beach, Woody has to stop the car for a gas refill. He then instructs the two to buy brews and sandwiches from the convenience store. As soon as they enter the shop, the cashier panics to see Zebo in possession of a firearm, which is just a toy gun he got from a kid. The frightened cashier ends up giving them all the store's money, and they even get a magazine, tissue rolls, and others. When Woody comes inside the shop to pay, the cashier tells him he was just held up, so they hide inside. Seconds later, a flashy car arrives with a lady in pink driving it. She then asks Whiplock and Zebo to back up as she needs a refill. But when Zebo drives the vehicle, he crashes it into the lady's car, the stuffed toys behind them, a trash can, and others, creating a mess. Woody calls Valerie to alert her about the situation, and Mac also arrives at the scene. The police then arrest Woody and Mac, suspected of being affiliated with the two other guys who are out of control on the road. Zebo and Whiplock eventually drive off the bridge, but the police are able to catch up to them, only they are snagged on the shop's signage of Randy's Donuts. Back at the convenience store, Valerie tries to explain and pleads to a cop to release her friends, but the man won't budge. She then destroys the police car's siren, and soon she's arrested with Mac and placed in the back seat. They also learn that Whiplock and Zebo will be taken to the Our Lady of the Valley Hospital, where Ted works. To escape from the police, Valerie instructs Mac to give them the love touch so she can manipulate them, but the two end up falling for each other. Fortunately, things still work out, and they are able to reach the hospital while the two cops remain tamed. Ted, on the other hand, is the doctor assigned to Zebo and Whiplock. He starts running initial tests on them until he learns they have 2 heartbeats. Valerie and Mac have also reached the front desk, and upon learning that the two are currently in the emergency room with Ted, they go upstairs and disguise themselves as a doctor and a nurse. When they walk inside the emergency room and demand to take the patients, Ted instantly refuses and begins blabbering about how his discovery of 2 heartbeats will make him famous. But using Mac's power, they mess with Ted's stethoscope and make him listen to 2 heartbeats even when checking for Valerie's. His beeper malfunctions, the phone starts ringing, and soon everything inside the room goes out of control. Ted eventually leaves the emergency room, and Valerie and Max successfully get Zebo and Whiplock out of the hospital. Valerie plans to use Ted's car to escape and lets the aliens inside, but even before they can leave, Ted sees her and asks her to drive him home. During the ride, Ted proposes to marry Valerie in Las Vegas that night, to which she agrees and seals it with a kiss. At home, Valerie is busy packing her stuff while the three continue to repair their spaceship. Ted also calls his colleague from the hospital, Barbara, to cover his shift the next day, and it turns out that Barbara is one of his girls. Once the spaceship is fixed, Valerie bids farewell to the aliens. Unexpectedly, Ted walks to the pool area and starts getting frantic at seeing the spaceship. Valerie tries to explain the situation, but he just accuses her of being contaminated. Ted tries to call the police, but Mac uses his power to put the couple in a love spell. Mac bids Valerie goodbye with a broken heart, and the ship soon takes off, but Valerie gets off Ted and starts calling for Mac's name. The woman confesses her love for Mac and asks him to take her with him. Valerie also bids Ted goodbye, and finally she boards the ship to be with Mac. Then, Candy arrives to see Valerie boarding the ship, and after a short moment of confusion, she happily accepts her friend's decision to leave their planet. Aside from Candy, Ted, and Bambi, the cat, Mrs. Merkin also sees the spaceship set off.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.